All right, today we are diving deep. We're going to peek under the hood of reality itself to explore this really radical theory, one that suggests the universe, our entire existence, might be running on a secret source code we're only just now starting to figure out.
For centuries, pretty much since Newton and all the way through Einstein, we've been completely captivated by this one big idea, that the universe is continuous, that it's infinitely divisible, like a perfect sheet of glass where everything just flows. All of our most powerful physics, it's built right on top of that assumption of smoothness.
But what if that fundamental idea is just plain wrong? What if the smooth, flowing reality we all experience is just a super high-resolution illusion? A smooth lie, if you will, that's hiding a much, much stranger, more granular, almost crystalline truth underneath it all. So where do we even begin with something like that? Well, we start by looking for the cracks, the little glitches and weird inconsistencies that are starting to show up in that otherwise perfectly smooth picture of our universe. This really sets up a fundamental showdown. So in one corner, you've got what we can call smooth math. That's the traditional, continuous view of things. And in the other corner, you have this wild new idea, the L Varian theory. And it says reality isn't a flowing river at all. Instead, it's this incredibly complex, crystalline engine that's built from distinct machine-like parts, a concept it calls mnemonic machinery. Okay, so if smooth math is broken, then what's the fix? Well, this theory isn't just proposing a patch. It's calling for a complete and total reboot of physics, all built around a single, unbelievably powerful number, a number that could be the key to unlocking an entirely new foundation for reality. And that really begs the question, right? If we just toss out all the old math that's worked so well for so long, what do we replace it with? What kind of fundamental principle could possibly be powerful enough to act as the source code for the entire universe? The answer, according to this theory, is the number 13. Yeah, not as some superstition, but as the fundamental base number for existence itself, the prime integer that is, quite literally, the architectural foundation for everything that is. So why 13? What's so special about it? Well, what you're seeing here is how it relates to something called its harmonic number. Now, for most primes, like 7 or 11, that harmonic number is just one less than the prime itself. But for 13, the result is 12. And 12 is what's known as a perfect harmonic. It's highly divisible, you can chop it up in all sorts of ways. And the theory argues this is absolutely crucial. It creates this perfect 12-part system, almost like a harmonic alphabet that reality uses to build logic, structure, and maybe even consciousness itself.
So if we imagine reality is running on a base 13 system, then it helps to think of it kind of like a computer's operating system. It has different layers, and each layer handles a different kind of job, from the most fundamental, deep-down code all the way up to running complex applications.
And here is that very OS in action. As you can see, it just builds on itself in layers. At the absolute deepest level, Mod 13 provides the stable bedrock of reality. That in turn allows for Mod 12, our harmonic alphabet. And from there, the system just stacks up logic, volume, shape, and spin, all the way to the very top with Mod 2, which is just a simple binary choice, like move or don't move. It's this beautiful, elegant cascade, building immense complexity from a really simple foundation. But for any operating system to actually work, it has to be able to keep its programs separate, right? It does this using a really mind-bending concept called Clopen sets. The sandbox analogy on the slide is just perfect. Imagine a program that is totally sealed off. It's closed. But the main system can still get in and access it, so it's open. The theory proposes this is exactly how reality builds separate, yet still connected, chambers of existence.
Okay, so now that we've got the operating system, let's take a look at the killer app it can run, something that just completely crashes our standard understanding of physics.
Let's talk about something called the Sedenians. This is a mathematical structure that exists in 16 dimensions, and it's incredibly powerful, but it's also notoriously unstable. In standard smooth math, it just plain doesn't work. It completely breaks down. So why does it break? Well, it's because of these things called zero divisors. The slide calls them mathematical sinkholes, and that's exactly what they are. Just try to imagine two real, non-zero numbers multiplying together and suddenly equaling zero. Information just vanishes. Poof. For a system like the universe, that would be a catastrophic, system-wide collapse. So how does the L Varian system handle this fatal error? The beautiful thing is, it doesn't. It prevents it from ever happening. That base 13 architecture we talked about, it's not just a foundation, it's a safety net. It's this rigid, crystalline lattice that literally catches the system before it can fall into one of these mathematical sinkholes. The theory calls this process inherent geometry quantization. Now, that's a complex name for a really simple, elegant idea, which the slide illustrates so nicely. You have this unstable 16-dimensional flow that's running on top of the superstable base 13 grid, and when that flow gets dangerously close to a zero-divisor sinkhole, it doesn't crash. It just snaps to the nearest point on the grid, preserving all the information and avoiding a catastrophe. This way, the universe gets all the power of 16 dimensions with absolutely none of the risk.
Now, I know this all sounds very abstract, but this is where it gets truly fascinating. What if this universal operating system could actually explain some of the strange glitches and unique features of our own consciousness? Take, for instance, aphantasia, the inability to voluntarily create a mental image. I mean, you know what an apple is, you can describe it perfectly, but you can't actually see it in your mind's eye. Well, within this framework, aphantasia could just be an OS glitch. The information flows in just fine. Your brain processes the concept of apple, but the system fails to send that data back to the visual chamber of your mind to render an image. That signal basically becomes a one-way street. Or what about the opposite kind of glitch? Something like synesthesia, where your senses seem to cross over. You know, people who might hear a specific musical note and see the color blue, or they might taste a word. And here's how the theory would explain it. Remember those Clopen sets we talked about, the perfect little sandboxes? Well, synesthesia could be what happens when the walls between those sensory chambers become leaky. It's like a bug, where sound data leaks from its proper chamber and spills right over into the one for vision. When you put all of these pieces together, it really paints a profound new picture of everything. Reality isn't some static, passive backdrop. According to this framework, existence is an active, ongoing computation. It is a constant process of projecting possibilities, collapsing them onto a stable grid, and then feeding the results right back into the system over and over. And all of this leaves us with one final, really provocative thought. If reality is, in fact, a computer running on base 13, who or what wrote the first line of code?